course, any brand, and I think this is why so many restaurant businesses get into trouble as they get to scale in the UK, any brand needs to be reinvented all the time, needs to be moved forward, needs investment. I mean, that's Perry's business. When we talk about Perry, we're talking about Perry Hayden Taylor from Big Fish. He's been on this podcast 3 times extraordinarily. This is my first time. May there be many more. And I think that constant reinvention, preserving the essence, the ethos of the brand, but moving it forward all the time, in line with culture, the wider culture, in line with the product as the product evolves, and of course, evolving is a risk. Yes, it's much easier just to stay as you are, and it's a lot cheaper, right? But ultimately, you have to. And one of the things that kills businesses is just going, right, we've perfected it now. Let's just keep spending the same amount of money on marketing, the same money, and the business will keep growing. And let's cut the costs while we're at it. And then before you know it, you're catching a falling knife, and the whole thing is going bust on you. So it's challenging.
What's mental is that Mark interview was in 2018.
Yeah,
5 years ago. And I was thinking, and there was some stuff in there that you were talking about Albert Schloss in Manchester. I went to uni up in Manchester. Yeah. I can never say Altrincham Market, whatever it is. Yeah. So that's now like become more of a thing. So you said something that says AI is coming down the road, which is mad. And it's like, we'll talk.
The profit is what you're saying.
Yeah. That's what I want to talk about that later. But what I'm basically saying is it's so true. Like when I listened to the podcast you with Mark 5 years ago, you're like, oh my God, like the landscape now is so different. And I think we're like the food, almost the concept of street food was just beginning to sort of bubble in the zeitgeist, whereas now it's like everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think by having this interview today and the conversation you had with Mark is like, if you don't constantly reinvent, you just become stale and pallid and just sort of just evaporate into the ether. Going into that, like, how do people reinvent without losing their core essence and their soul? Because I think I've seen it happen before firsthand, where you try and reinvent yourself and you're like, it's like putting on the wrong clothes.
I think that the key thing is to dance, like nobody's watching, right? So the whole point about business and brand is, you've got to be you can't be there's got to be a part of you, there's got to be a part of your headspace, and as a business and as an individual, if you're the CEO or the founder or whatever, which just loves doing what you're doing, is having fun, and is always thinking forward. And, just because you've had a absolutely fucking terrible last 3 months, and sales have gone down and you're losing money, and somebody key in the business is left, and and there's all these terrible things are happening, which is basically welcome to running your own business. You have to be able to carve out that headspace which says, I am so excited about how Coca-Cola is going to evolve this year. I mean, it can sometimes a really great marketing and brand evolution can happen by mistake. For example, like when KFC ran out of chicken, and they created out of the recovery of that, which remember the F*CK campaign, which was basically, fuck, we've run out of chicken. Sorry guys, but we're going to be back. And they did it with so much wit and joy and excitement and and humility, importantly, that when they did get chicken back, their sales were up enormously. I mean, like vastly up, because they just caught. And that's a big company. I mean, Yum Brands is one of the biggest restaurant businesses in the world, if not the biggest. And they were nimble enough to, when they had a problem in the tiny little UK market, they absolutely nailed it. And their UK business was not in trouble before. It was fine. Wasn't amazing. It's amazing now. And that's because of what they did with that recovery. So that can happen. And in a way, that's a gift.
Is there an example of how you did that at Woody's or the Draft House with this? Because I think what's joyful to hear is as you said, like, business is hard. There's loads of failures. It's, you know, every day is going to mess up, fuck up kind of thing. But to create a space in your mind to have that sort of frivolous kind of fun and, as you say, dance like no one's watching. Is there an example of how you reinvented without losing yourself?
Well, you have to constantly say, what is the right thing to do here for the brand, for the business, for the team, for the customer? It's yes, any business person has to control costs, but it's not generally in anyone's interest to slash costs in a business because you're in trouble, generally speaking. And it's also probably not in anyone's interest to double down hugely and spend loads more money. You've just got to be clever about how you plan out, like, okay, we're in the shit at the moment. What do we need to do for the next 6 to 12 months, next 2 years? I mean, we're just in the middle of an exercise at Butchies, which is called 2025. And what that means is 20 sites by 2025. And that's a two-part exercise. Part one is what do we do for the next 3 months? And part two is what do we do for the next 3 years? And they're completely different exercises. The next 3 months is like, what are the things we need to do to build the foundations